Welcome back to another edition of the Good Eye Podcast. My name's Jay Smack. And today my guest is Ryan Kent. This was a great conversation. Ryan is one of those people, you know, you see people you know and you say, man, we got to get together. And then it just doesn't happen for a while. And then, of course, COVID. So it turned into well over a year. And a mutual friend of ours passed away recently, and that really was the impetus for me to reach out to Ryan and say, let's get together. So I'm glad it did. I took it as something to take inspiration from that event. So I did, and I reached out to Ryan to say we've been talking about having a conversation. So we did, and he comes full on vulnerable, I should say, which takes a lot of strength. Talks about some tough times. We talk about addiction. We talk about books, music, injustice, all kinds of stuff. We don't solve anything, but we do have a conversation. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. Here's my conversation with my friend Ryan Kent on today's Good Eye Podcast. So now that we've wasted all this time having conversations off mic, I have nothing to talk about.
Yeah, man. I could just point at things in the room and you tell me about it.
Wait, that's role reversal. That's why you're here.
Hey.
So cool. You were talking earlier about school, and we were talking about second fiddle people, how we both respect second fiddle people, and how, you know, people sometimes don't fit into the mold that's put upon them. I was curious how you originally got into poetry. You have spent quite a lot of time in bands, being a singer, being a screamer, you know, which I don't get because you've got a deep voice, kind of like mine, and the notes you can hit when you're screaming. First of all, we'll riff a little bit on the poetry thing, but I want to know if you did any training to get your voice to hit those notes.
Not really. I lucked out and met Adam and Big John and Pat, and they let me play in their band. And I couldn't do anything. I'd never been in a band before. And, I mean, the only time I'd ever heard my voice was on on my parents' answering machine, I guess. And, you know, I just tried and just kept doing it. And I mean, we practiced 5 nights a week and, for multiple hours. You know, it was a lot, man. And, Randy Black told me to check out this DVD that he was on called The Zen of Screaming. And what it did, it was Melissa Cross, and she's a vocal instructor out of New York. And she happens to work with a lot of people in the heavy metal genre who make their money with their throat screaming, you know. And what she did was, she was able to, I guess, teach these dudes and ladies how to scream for a long time without ripping their throats out.
Yeah, know? That's what I was getting at. And I wondered if you had talked to Randy about it, because he does it masterfully.
He's on the DVD, and it was cool, like watching all that and stuff. But what it did was it kind of, there was this a thing on there that it was called screaming above the pencil. So if you think about it, if you put a pencil between your teeth and you want to make your voice go over the pencil, and what that does, I guess, is that just kind of puts you in your voice, your real voice.
Is that your head voice versus your, you know, belly voice?
You know,
voice?
I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. It was a weird thought, but I was thinking about my head voice, and I couldn't really describe it. Like, I'd never really thought about that before. I was just trying to describe what does my head voice sound like, and it wasn't deep. It was my voice, but it wasn't my voice. If that makes any sense. I don't know, man. It was just a weird thought. I was like, yeah, you know, I never really thought about that. It's a weird thing.
So how'd you get into poetry? How early did you get into it?
I guess I was about 17 I started. I used to swim. I swam in high school, and then I got senioritis really early, and I wasn't able to swim my senior year. I failed 2 classes, and that was it. And man, I didn't. There was nothing else that was about me. I really lacked substance. I think a lot of people at that age lack substance, but because you're growing. You're a little person. You know, I mean, you might be 17 years old, chest hair, whatever. You're a little person, man. And you know, I didn't know what else to do, and all I really could do was listen to music. And
I was going to say, did it come from music? I think a lot of people who find poetry, it comes from music.
It came from I guess the mechanism came from 2 different places. It came from Rage Against the Machine, because I wanted to understand what Zach was talking about. And then I went on their rageagainstthemachine.com or .net, whatever it was. I was in high school, and I started downloading, or not downloading, but I printed out a page or 2 that was the Rage Against the Machine reading list. And it had all of these books that had political undertones or were just overtly political, or you know, or anything, or just banned books, like Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver, or was My Antonia on there, Willa Cather, you know, I mean, it was just all kinds of stuff. Live from Death Row by Bami Abu Jamal, and like what it did was it gave me something to do, and I thought, well, I might as well learn. And I was reading these books that, you know, unfortunately, I wasn't taught about a lot of this stuff in school. You know, I ended up having to go out and learn it educate myself on some of it. And I'm not saying, I just read some books, man. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. And then I watched, I swear to God, man, this is the truth. I watched Jerry Maguire, and it was that first part where he just gets very passionate and writes this mission statement, 1 page turned into 25. Everybody got a copy. And I wanted to feel that too. I wanted to feel something other than what I was feeling right then. And I wrote in all cap letters on my father's computer, and it was 13 pages. And I'm not going to embarrass myself with the title. But I don't even remember what it was. I remember what it was about, but I don't remember what I said. But I just didn't really stop. And then, you know, I just kept writing poems, and it was weird. They were real flowery.
So they were poems and they weren't songs.
Yeah, no, I don't really think I'm a songwriter. Mm-hmm. I actually kind of struggle with that. And like, people have said to me, "Hey man, why don't you just turn your poem?" And I'm like, man, it's different.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way as an example. Like, when it comes to screaming, I'm not great at screaming, but I can do it. And singing, you know, I mean, you're using the same thing, but they're done differently. I can scream pretty well. I'm not a very good singer. And I think that there's kind of like a misconnection there. Like, something is, you know, where I haven't figured that out yet. And if I get that, then I can do it. But I think it's a lot more of not necessarily having an ability to do it, but not having the mindset in order to achieve it. Like I mean, I think if I'm able to write kind of limited basic poems, then I think, and that they can resonate with somebody, I think anybody can do that. And that's why I always preach that if everybody's got their phone in their hand all day long, might as well stop playing words with friends, or stop looking at Facebook or eBay or Instagram or whatever the hell you look at, and go on your memo pad, and that word you thought was funny today, you should write that down. Or that phrase that you really thought you should have said to Sharon earlier, you should write that down. Or maybe the phrase that you thought you should have said to Bob, but you didn't say it to Bob, you said the other thing. You should write that down, because that exists there. And I think what's going on is we're being, not necessarily, we're freely being fed all this stuff to distract us, and what we're doing is we're forgetting how to use our minds and forgetting like what it is to, I don't know, be something else than what you're looking at.
We're absolutely all being fed different realities. We're all, we're being fed predictive behavior. What I'm getting at is that these social media companies are not necessarily selling us data. They're selling predictive behavior.
Yes.
You interact with something, they pick up on that. They feed an algorithm back to you because they know what you've clicked on in the past, and then they start dictating that behavior. First, they're selling the predictive behavior, then they're dictating the behavior itself, and we're all living different realities through social media. It's a crazy social experiment that I think if more of us, I think, were aware that we were being played, and everybody claims to know, but to actively engage with it as if you're being watched all the time or it's being used against you, I think it wouldn't have nearly the power that it's had the last few years. It's like spreads like an oil spill, man. It's just like, you all know that it's there and everything, but it's still going in your blood and it's still changing who you are. Like, I've said and acted ways on the internet that are just like not me at all. I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah, it does.
Like I remember,
pulls a different lever.
Yeah, man. I got into something with somebody, and I really felt like the way I reacted to it was really beneath who I am as a person. I was really disappointed in myself, and I think that it has the ability to do good things with a price and bad things. Mm-hmm. I speak against it as much as I do, and I'm guilty of sin of doing it all day. It sucks. Like, I've done something with it so that I'm on it very little, but I'm still playing the game. Like, I post pictures of autographed books that I have. It's fun. I enjoy doing that. It's like going and looking at my Far Side thing of the day. I'm just instead taking a picture of a book that I like that happens to be signed by the author. That's cool, but I don't need to put that on the internet. Of the 10 people that enjoy it every day, that's cool. I'm happy because that's neat that we get to do that together, but really it's not needed. And it's a shame that I need to do that.
Yeah, I think as long as you're treating it, and this is a buzzword, but it's appropriate, with mindfulness, as long as you're mindful about what you're putting up, these political arguments and indoctrination and the hive mind, it's so destructive. And, if you're just thinking about what you're putting up, or you're putting it up with, this is a double-edged sword, putting it up with good intentions, because people could post hateful things with what they think are good intentions.
Yeah.
But, and you mentioned finding stuff in high school that spoke to you. I relate to that. I think everybody can relate to that, especially when you sort of interact with your earliest influences or your earliest source of influences, whether it's an older brother who turns you onto a really cool band, or somebody who, like you said, the Rage reading list. That book you're sitting right next to right there, it's called Bowie's Bookshelf, and it's stuff that David Bowie read and influenced him. It's a tiny little book that I was given as a gift, and I just love it. Finding those treasure troves of stuff to check out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just can take you, talk about a rabbit hole, and it's not social media.
Yeah, see that's a thing that I think is totally worthwhile getting lost into, because you're experiencing, in a way, you're in the mind of a creative person that you admired and you liked what they put out there, and now you get to get into their soul a little bit, because these are the things that they liked, and these aren't things that they talked about on the internet that they needed everybody to see. This is stuff that they had on their bookshelf, and whoever it was compiled these and blah blah blah, and that's, God, I'd rather waste my time doing that than scrolling autographed books on eBay. And I spend a lot of time doing that because I enjoy it. That's something I really enjoy doing, is collecting those things, because I'm not a drunk anymore. And if I feel that if I wanted to eagerly spend $25 and $30 a night fall down, drag myself home wasted, then I don't really see the issue with buying a $45 book signed by FX Tool, putting it on my shelf, reading it, and just being proud of it because that was another day I didn't drink, you know? And like, man, those are things I think that I just lost a lot of appreciation and stuff for just like little things that I just, they just weren't important enough to me. And that was a shame, you know, just like, I don't know, man, like just spend time with you. This is awesome. You know, like, I mean, just, I appreciate just having the opportunity to be able to sit here and do this. This is great. You know,
I call it buckets, whatever your buckets are. You only have so many buckets and each bucket only has so much volume. If you've got a destructive bucket, and we all do, then you can't carry, what other bucket could you be carrying? You know, what other bucket would you have that you could put really cool stuff in, whether it's books or artistic thought or philosophy or literature, things like that. So that's really awesome, man. And I mean, awesome that you got sober. I know that, and we talked about this a little bit. I'd got some addiction in my family, and I know that I am not an alcoholic. And I only say that because there's a lot of it in my wife's family as well. And she taught me a lot about it because I don't like to be drunk. You know, I like the taste of beer, but there comes that, because I worried about it. The reason I bring this up is because I think we all worry about it if we'd like to have a drink now and then. I get to that point where I'm like, I don't like this. And it's usually 2 or 3 beers, you know, but some people, and it's a hard thing, I think, to deal with. I think we get addicted to patterns as much as substances, you know. We have these well-worn patterns. I know this is bad for me, but it's what I know. To face that, you know, it's so hard. People who I think who haven't faced it or had it in their family, which is surprising because these days just about everybody is touched by some form of addiction, whatever it is, whether it's food or media or social media or booze or drugs or whatever it is. And I'm talking addiction, you know, I'm not talking, I think adults should be able to do what they want with their bodies. But you know, we get so ingrained in patterns that we can't break out of, even though we see it going on. It's almost like we're living parallel lives and watching from the other side of that. So to have faced that, and you said in our exchanges, I don't know what I can really offer. I just kind of did it myself. You just woke up one day and said, I've had it, or, you know, had a new mindset, or you know, how'd you approach it?
It was weird. It was it was a bad day, man. And it was wintertime, and it was January 28th, and I pulled my car in front of the Fast Mart across the street from Millie's on Main. Yeah, that's Main. Yeah, on Main. And I pulled up, and I was going to get a 6-pack of hams because they were $3.99, and I think they were like 16 ounces too. So I was like, okay, well, that's cool, cheap, and then I'll get a little ripped. I just sat there and I was like, really? You're just gonna do this again? Just gonna do this again because you know you're gonna just feel like ass tomorrow, and then you're gonna be down $4, and you still didn't eat. And look at that guy, and there's a dude, and he was standing outside the door. And he's just, man, maybe he's my age, maybe he's younger, maybe he's a little older. I don't really remember. He's shorter than me. I remember that, and he had a beard. And he was just opening the door for people when they went in. And I went in, and I didn't get beer. I bought a sandwich. And I gave him $1 when I walked out, and I got in my car, and I went home. And I was like, okay, let's try this again. And then I just didn't want to do it anymore. I was sick of it, man. I was sick of being sick of myself. And
That is strong. And, you know, we're losing people around us to these substances, and it's not just substances. You know, the substances are the vehicle, you know, but the hypocrisy to have government regulated systems that supply us the substances that they deem appropriate, while something like, you know, cannabis, which is, I'm really surprised that we're seeing legalization and acceptance on a certain level.
Yeah, I never thought that would
I
happen,
did not.
especially in Virginia.
I didn't,
that.
you know, and there's a book called Chasing the Scream that had a huge impact on me. We lost my brother-in-law to addiction. My brother is in recovery. My father-in-law is in recovery, but there was so much of him in that book, my brother-in-law. And there's one guy who really got it started, and his name was Harry Ainslinger in the 30s. And he developed, or was the head of the, I think I wrote it down, the Department of Narcotics Enforcement or something. And they literally started targeting artists, Billie Holiday.
Oh God. Yeah.
Not John Cold, Charlie Parker, you know, started targeting them. And they were racist policies as well, because, and marijuana was on the front edge of that. You know, there was a national campaign against
Reefer Madness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that 30s?
Absolutely. And I'm surprised we're seeing it in our lifetime. I mean, and this is not a testimony to say, you know, this is right, this is wrong, you know, this substance is fun, this substance is evil. It's to say that adults should be able to do what they want with their bodies, but that's not promoting, I don't know, like the whole Oregon thing, the way Oregon has gone with legalizing everything. I think there's merit in that from an addiction and recovery standpoint, because at least it's giving people who can help access to addicts. You know, if they come in and they get clean needles or whatever it is, at least they're giving them access to help. And this is such a complex issue. There's no way we're going to sit here and solve it, but
it's because it's I don't know. I mean, like, I guess if all of our parents gave us muscle cars, half of us would have died. You know, it's the same thing. People have free will. You give people the opportunity to be able to try and mess with, and, you know, what's this? Let me do this, you know? And some people are going to want to do that all the time, and they're going to wreck that thing. Or they're going to try it and say, yeah, that's really not me. Felt good, man, but no. You know, I don't need to make that a part of my life. Personally, I don't really know what what my opinion on that would be. Strange as this sounds, and please don't misquote this. I don't mean it as it sounds, but I feel like as the older I get, I'm more conservative, and I don't mean conservative as in Republican conservative. I'm not that dude.
No, I know what you mean. Thoughtful, intentional.
Yeah, man, conscientious, and man, I fail every day at this, but it's just like, I don't know, man. I just think that people should be able to try things, but then I'm afraid that people try things.
Right.
You know, so
that's exactly right. I think that's what the point I was trying to make, that we have to be responsible for ourselves, but where is that line between personal responsibility and hypocrisy when it comes to policies?
Yeah, it's like, this is why, I mean, I just don't think that I don't think a war on drugs is the answer. I don't think implementing minorities is anything but cruel and wicked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
because that's who suffers the most.
Oh yeah,
the people, you know, not without the means, and that's not necessarily minorities as such, but I'm just talking poverty level and income. But people without the means to fight back, and a weird relationship is also access to bikes and bike lanes. There's like no bike lanes in challenged areas.
Oh, of course not. And like the roads are small, and then
exactly.
you go into and that's a thing also, is like not noticing a lot of bus stop benches, like.
Mm-hmm.
But other parts of town, the roads are nice and wide, and there's a bus stop bench right next to every sign, and boy, it's nice and clean and covered and comfortable. I mean, there's a man sitting there asking you how your day is, and that's not a way of doing things, I don't think. But who am I, man? I'm just some dude from Richmond, man, and like, but I mean, I don't think that you can just drive by and not feel that that's something's wrong there, that's incorrect. Like, I mean, I don't care really where you're brought up. You can look at that and see there's a difference, and you can know in your heart that's wrong. You can feel that the same way you feel when you don't give somebody money that's standing on the sidewalk, regardless of what their life is. Part of you feels bad about it because part of you could have given them money. I do the same thing. I'm horribly cold, and that sucks. But it's the truth. And I still feel like a sorry rat bastard every time that I don't hand somebody $1.
There's I'm trying to remember where I heard it. It might have been my mom. She's full of this slogan that goes, every mule feels its pack heaviest. Everybody's got a saying like that. Everybody's battling something.
Sure.
Judgment doesn't help. Or thinking I got it rougher than that person, or that person doesn't deserve this, or, a little bit of kindness goes a really long way.
Yeah, man, it's like my grandparents really instilled a lot of good knowledge. They passed on to me, and some of it I took. And one thing that they told me that I think just kind of, over the years, it's just clicked the most, is I was just trying to follow the golden rule, man, and fail, like most things that we try to do, we fail, and then we win. And I think just trying to collect as many days of winning that is kind of a cool thing to collect and go with, like, I don't know, just doing the right thing, it should just kind of feel,
and which
great.
is hard. That's hard enough. Doing the right thing.
It's terribly hard. So, that was something that I've heard, because I've said it. I've heard other drunks and addicts say it before, and everything was so easy when I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about it, and in some ways it was, but really what it was, the thing that wasn't easy about it was just avoiding responsibility and running. It was almost like having to keep up with a lie, man. Like you told a lie, and then you got to tell this little lie to make sure that they don't get that. Then you got to do all this work. And instead you could have just told the truth, and it's like the same kind of thing. Like you're running away from I was running away from accepting responsibility, accepting where I was in my life, and accepting my shortcomings and personal failures. So instead, I ran and hid in a bottle. And everything that I have in my life in regards to that, I deserve. Those are my choices. Nobody made me do that, and it's not alcohol's fault. Alcohol did what it was supposed to do. I didn't. And I guess that's just a way of looking at it, because if you're going to try to implement the golden rule into your life, then you not only need to do that with others, but you need to do that with yourself. It's like, I'm not going to talk to myself like that today. I'm not going to look at myself in the mirror and say, God, I don't like that about you. I'm going to go and do something today, like go look at autographed books and feel very good to be holding a book signed by Tom Wolfe in 1974 and not buy it.
Did you do that today?
No. I didn't need to.
You just made it up?
I felt all right. Yeah, that was just something. But that was something
that was good.
something I've done before. I've done that before, going to a bookstore. That was the lovely thing about going to Chop Suey with Ward, is that poor man, I know he opened his glass case signed books. You probably can't count on 10 people's hands how many times I've asked him to do that, and he's always let me. And sometimes very rarely actually, I ever bought anything out of there, but it was just being able to hold this book that Charles Bukowski signed, and be able to somehow feel that kind of good juju coming off of it. And like, I wouldn't ever have touched the signature with my finger or anything like that, but know that my finger was that close to that signature where that ballpoint pen touched. That my favorite, regardless of who he is, I don't care what anybody's opinion is about that. He's my favorite writer. And
who?
Oh, Bukowski.
Oh,
yeah, there's a laundry list of things that you can call that dude, but what you can't call him is a bad writer. And he inspired me to do what I do. I mean, there's obvious connection there. It's like, oh God, oh boy, another guy writing like Bukowski. I don't care. That's just what I like. And I like how he said it.
That's even an interesting take, because so many people have never heard of Bukowski.
Oh, I know.
But that's your universe. But he's a fascinating cat for a million reasons, like you said.
He's kind of a cad too, man. Kind of a SOB, dude.
Sure, but he kept himself on a certain level, almost intentionally. Not necessarily so he wouldn't quote unquote sell out, but didn't he show great loyalty to certain publishers because they took a chance on him, so he didn't?
It was John Martin and Black Sparrow Press. Like, what happened was they ended up getting in, because John Martin liked call him Hank, I call him Hank. I'm not trying to be that dude, but liked Hank's writing enough to where he sold all of his first edition books, which was like $50,000, which was a lot of money back then. This was like the 60s. And, I could be wrong. It could be the 70s, but it's, far away from now. And, he said, okay, I'm going to pay you $100 a month for life. Well, this is our agreement. And he did. And Hank wrote, and Black Sparrow Press put out the stuff. And then like they got down to their last $500 or something. And John Martin was like, well, I guess I'll go back and get a job. I guess, we tried. And he said in that month, that was the first time they had more money come in than went out. And he said, really? I know that we're on a roll now. And that was it. And it was because somebody believed enough in his stuff that he was able to live the way he did, and then rise up from that on his own, off of his own laurels in a way. Like, what he did was able to pull him out of this muck that he created for himself, that he made himself, in this dirt. And then what he did and said about it brought him out of it. That's kind of awesome. Mm-hmm. You are a bum, dude. And your breath stinks. And
cad's a good word. You use the word cad.
Yeah, he's a cad, man. But I think that what I like about him so much was not how he was a son of a bitch to people, and how he was real rough with ladies, and just how he was just kind of an ass. Mm-hmm. It was that under all of that tough guy stuff was this real pained kid.
Yeah.
And he would open up sometimes, and it was quite beautiful. There was just some things that the man wrote that I was like, man, there's no reason why he should be writing like this. And where it just, I didn't know what else I could do with my life anymore. I only wanted to do that. Not write not copy him, but I wanted to be able to love something, my thing, that much, that's all I did. And that I was able to tell my thing. And, I'm a self-absorbed person, so I write about myself all the time. It's what I got. I don't have a lot of other things, and I don't look at a lot of other things. I look at things and I internalize them and say why I'm failing at something.
And that's your voice.
That's what, that's what I read a lot of other, man, like, honestly, I don't really like a lot of poetry. I love writing it.
You like, right? Yeah.
And I like certain people that I've read, but a lot of it, it's just not for me, man. And that's nothing on their ability. Their ability is far and away better than mine. You know, I mean, people who have gone to college and done this, I didn't earn anything. And I just sat around and wrote it.
You could be a great sprinter and not have a favorite sprinter. Yeah. You know, you just like doing something. And love doing it.
Yeah. I like people like that too, who really don't care and they're just awesome at it, you know, and they could care less. I remember I swam. I mentioned swimming. I swam growing up, and I remember swim meets where there'd be some kid from some other team always asking what your time was, you know, and I really didn't like that kid. And I'd always tell him, you know, and then he would have probably some arrogant whatever. I always liked the dude that just really didn't care about swim team, but his parent made him do it or something. It was just awesome. And it was just awesome. And the minute he didn't have to do it, he never did it again. That person's so cool, man. It's rad.
You know what that reminds me of? And I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but shredders, guitar shredders, because I love shredders. Oh, yeah. I absolutely do. But I love people say, what kind of music? They're like, oh, I like all music. I literally do. I love all music. I like shredders, and I also like really lo-fi, you know, and I'm not saying Sonic Youth doesn't play well, but, you know, lo-fi like a Sonic Youth or somebody like that versus a Joe Satriani. I think there's a place for all of it. But in the shredder world, it is often how many notes a second, how many notes a minute can you play, how many scales.
Malmsteen.
How many weird, you know, harmonic scales do you play? But, you know, every scene, every genre, every ilk finds its own sort of qualitative measures. But, you know, you mentioned Bukowski. It feels like I'm obsessed with balance, and the ebb and flow of energy and how energy is not created or destroyed. It just changes forms. But, you know, a Bukowski or even a Stephen Hawking, weird to put them both in the same neighborhood, but where they might be lacking in some facets, they make up for in other facets. And that you can say that about just, you know, anybody or anything. There's a balance to life. Poor Stephen Hawking, trapped inside his own body, but he was a fucking genius, you know.
This is going to come off as a poor joke, and I really don't mean it that way. But I think that Bukowski and Stephen Hawking would get along very well because they wouldn't talk, and they would just sit there.
You're probably
and
right.
I think that Charles Bukowski would know, obviously, who Stephen Hawking was, and either respect the man or not, but appreciate that he wasn't being bothered. And
right.
So I think that relationship would go over well, and maybe they would end up talking about something. I don't know who either of these people are. All I know is what I'm fed off the internet. But you know what I'm saying? It's like
that's a good point.
judging off of what I know, I think that would be that'd be a nice marriage right there.
How about fiction? You a big reader in general, or do you like fiction? I should qualify that. Not fiction necessarily, but non-poetry, non-fiction, history,
I actually, that's what I started with before I started doing poems. Is I wrote short stories, and I started and stopped. I mean, like 5 or 6 novels. One of them I actually finished, but it just wasn't well written. It was just, I was young, man, and it was lazy writing. Cool story, but a story that has been told before. And the only
Prodigal Son?
No, it was
Star Wars.
Oh, that would have been way cooler. It was actually called Understanding Olivia, and it was about just a split personality thing. So it was, this was in 2001. So it was real new right then, and I loved Fight Club, and you know, and I had written, but this was not a Fight Club-esque story. This was about like real serious mental illness and then like murder, you know. But I wasn't able to finish anything. I would get bored with it, and I had one that was really had some steam with it, and then I think I ended up having a computer issue, and then by the time the computer was there, the flame was out. I mean, I don't even know if I have it anymore, but I still have the idea of it, but I don't care. You know, I'm doing this now. And then it was just kind of poems took over. And in 2007, because I'd gotten published by this thing called Western Reading for a poem I did, and it was some sing-songy Dave Matthews-y sounding kind of thing. And it, I think the collection was called In Other Words or whatever, and that was way long before I'd found Bukowski. I was in the into Allen Ginsberg, and I thought I knew what poetry was, and I thought it was Whitman and stuff like that, which it is, of course it is. It's all those things, but that wasn't what I needed to hear. And like Dickinson and Shelley and all those poets, I mean, it's beautiful language. It's like I wish I could write that. I can't. But I also don't really enjoy reading that. I can look at it, and just as like you can look at a type of painting that, God, this is absolutely beautiful, but I hate it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the kind of thing it is. But like I just ended up losing the fiction, and I kind of started just writing poems, and then kind of started telling little tiny stories about myself in poems, because I looked at other writers that I liked their poetry, and they did the same thing, so it let me know that I was all right.
Yeah, right.
You know,
yeah.
But like, then I got into playing music. I'd never played in a band before. I was 27 years old, and all I ever wanted to do was play in a band. I had their pictures all up behind my bed, like tearing stuff out of Hit Parade and taping it on the wall.
Circus.
Not nailing it on the wall so you don't put a hole in the plywood, or in the plywood, in the drywall. But you know, all these pictures on the wall. I always wanted to be in a band. I was never in a band. Then I was in a band, and I thought, well, Ryan, you gotta pause on your poems, man, because you should be writing songs, and you really are bad at that. So I did, and all I worked on was songs, and I'm still bad at it. But
now, is that lyrics or lyrics and music?
Oh yeah, lyrics for bands and stuff, you know.
Because I tend to, I bring this up because I was going to ask you if you have a process for writing, because I tend to write the music first, and it's like, okay, now I got to fit some lyrics over that. Which is it's kind of backwards. I think Jeff Lynne did it that way.
Oh yeah, Jeff Lynne's awesome. That's one of Adam's favorite band is Yellow. And
nice. I love Yellow.
Yeah, like Showdown, I'd have to say is my favorite. Actually, Chris Cornell did a cover of that for his covers album that they released, which I listened to. I was definitely not trying to listen to it. It felt like a cash grab. It just, I don't know what's going on in that tribe, but I listened to it, and was definitely a little disappointed not to hear the cello bum 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 bum. That wasn't at all on the song, but at the same time, I was like, you made it your own.
Yeah,
and you sang it really well.
It's yours now.
You know, yeah,
it's out in the universe.
Yeah. When it comes to like writing, I would much rather have somebody write music, and then I would love to have not a recorded completed song, but a completed song, and then I can just sit there with it and figure out what the hell I'm going to do with it. Maybe it's something I already wrote, or maybe it's something I have to pull out of the sky. I don't know. But I just kind of leave it by chance, and I hate it when I'm being forced to do it, because it never comes out as genuine. It comes out as hollow. And I've written a lot of hollow songs because I felt like I was rushed. But, you know, when we were talking about Charles Bukowski and how he lived on Skid Row, like I ended up writing more than half of the last Gritter record, the lyrics, of course, over a weekend. And
like an assignment?
I just got really, really drunk and swung my baseball bat around and smoked like 4 packs of cigarettes, and basically finished writing Hit Me When I'm Pretty. And was it that one? No, I'll take that back. I didn't basically finish writing Hit Me When I'm Pretty. I wrote a big chunk of that in that time period, and I wrote the title poem Hit Me When I'm Pretty during that weekend. But I wrote those 4 or 5 Gritter songs, and I felt them. And I was actually under a deadline, which was weird. But everything that I said was, and like I just didn't care. And I didn't care, meaning like, oh, I didn't care, like I'm not going to write. I didn't care what I said. I said what I thought. And I wasn't thinking, well, I wonder what. I don't care, man. I don't care. You don't like my band anyway. So it doesn't matter what I'm going to say. You're not going to like it. So what that did, that freedom allowed me to say some stuff that maybe wasn't great, but it was what I felt. And I think I did an all right job of being able to express that on a microphone, at least the best of my ability at the time, and I think that anybody that puts out a CD or puts out a zine or does anything understands and wants it to be the best they can do at that time, and I thought it was a cool way to go out with that band, man. I spent a lot of time with them. I love them very much, and I think we had a wonderful album. Nobody heard it. I don't care. It's still good. It's still ours.
You mean the last one, or Welcome to the Sinkhole? Or?
It was the one called Nobody Cares.
Yeah, Nobody Cares. Yeah,
it was a good record, man.
That is a great record.
And that there was this beautiful thing that was in that movie Adaptation, and I'm only gonna be able to paraphrase it because I can't really remember. And it was Nicolas Cage talking to Nicolas Cage. He was playing Charlie Kaufman, the screenplay writer, and they were talking about this girl in high school who went over to him and said something, and he gave her whatever, and then she turned around and laughed.
Oh, yeah.
And as she walked back to her friends, and he's saying, I know, I heard her. He said, but the thing is that I loved her, and she can't even take that away from me. That he loved her, and she didn't even have the power to take that from him. And that's the same thing about looking at Nobody Cares, looking at Welcome to Sinkhole, looking at my books of whatever, is that no matter what any of those people say, they can never take away the fact that I did that. And I did those things with my friends. And we made a couple albums. And we went across the United States and broke down. We yelled at each other. We hugged each other. We got drunk together. Spent each other's money. We loved each other. That's what you do in a family. And, if none of these people that didn't like my band, if it wasn't for them, I guess I wouldn't have been able to do anything I've done in my life. And it's those dudes that I spent all the time with in a van and in a place above Helen's and in a practice spot at Mike Servino's place in Scott's Addition, and I don't need any of those other fools and what they have to say about my band. I don't care. I have these memories with these dudes and these receipts from La Brea Tar Pit. These guys don't have that. I do. And I have it because of them.
You're never powerless as long as you have the power to be yourself.
Yeah, man. That's been a work in progress, dude. I have no idea who I am. I've been trying to figure that out. For the past 3 months, I've spent most nights walking the streets of the fan with my headphones on, just trying to understand things, try to unpack baggage that needed to be unpacked and resolve some stuff. And unfortunately, we're in this horrible pandemic that's screwing up everybody's life. But in that sense, I wouldn't have maybe had the opportunity to be able to try to understand who the hell I am.
There's the balance thing again. And you're right. I mean, the pandemic itself, the actual illness is doing its own damage. It's over here doing its thing. But what this separation is doing to us, and I go back to that book, Chasing the Scream, about addiction and the drug war. It says in there that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. Connecting with the other humans,
Absolutely.
Connecting with something, connecting with what makes you you. Connection is we said earlier, mindfulness is a trite buzzword. Connection is right up there with the impact. Connection, whatever you want to apply that to, whether it's what you love, whether it's your calling, whether it's your family, whether it's yourself, whether it's health, connection.
It makes me think of Elastica.
The band?
Yeah. Remember this song they did?
Connection?
Connection is made.
Oh,
Boom.
God, man, you're taking me back now.
Yeah, sorry to wreck that train.
No, that's a good transition. What are you listening to these days?
To be completely honest with you, man, I've been listening to like a ton of Frank Sinatra. I always listen to Frank Sinatra anyway, but I've been like kind of going overboard, listening to a lot of that and listening to a lot of Mark Lanigan. I love Mark Lanigan. I like the things
That's
Lanigan.
a guy you could probably sing, you know, another baritone.
I've been messing around with some stuff,
Yeah, cool.
you know. It's been you know, it's hit or miss. The man, it's Mark Lanigan, you know, but I've smoked a lot of cigarettes and I drank a lot of whiskey, and my voice,
Like Pat Travers.
Yeah,
Drinking.
Yeah.
There's
that.
Smoking whiskey, drinking cocaine, or what was that?
Well, do you have any? Yeah. No, I mean, like, no, I mean, you can't do things to yourself and not expect it to age yourself in some ways. Like I certain ways my face and my body look different than they would have if I hadn't done what I've done. You know, my voice sounds different because I've inhaled cigarettes and I have imbibed alcohol, and I've done a lot of it. And I'm not proud of it, but I have done it. And my voice sounds the way it does because of that. You know, I screamed for like 12 years, and screamed in a bar with a bottle, and then I screamed over a microphone with a bottle in my hand and a bunch of friends in the room. And I didn't warm up, and I didn't do it properly, and I had migraine headaches for the first year I was in the band by song 2, and my dudes were rough, and they pushed me, and they were good and they were right, and I was able to do it because they pushed me and scared me. I was scared of them. They were great, man. They're wonderful dudes, and but I was able to do that.
Interesting. I've been on this kick, go in waves, I guess, but this strange kick lately with progressive rock. I'm an old progressive rock fan. I mentioned Sonic Youth earlier. I went through an 80s phase with like Gang of Four, and back into, you know, Sonic Youth and stuff like that. Now I'm into middle periods, like the period in Yes where Bill Bruford left as drummer, and the Genesis period after Peter Gabriel left, where Phil Collins was finding his legs. So anyway,
I feel that, like, I've been listening to a lot of 80s and early 90s Elton John, like the Horrible Mom schlock, like the one.
So not the Bernie Taupin period.
Yes, these are the Elton songs, you know, like Believe.
I'm Still Standing.
No, I think was that might have been maybe he was done with Bernie then, but
I'm
sure. That was Too Low for Zero. That's a good album. That had, like, I guess that's why they call it the blues, and it was I don't want to go on with you like that.
That period, it's just not my bag. I respect it. I love Elton, but that's just not my bag.
It's bad, dude. It's not good, but
hey, I'm a Kiss fan. I got nowhere to
Oh, right. It's just like I understand that, like, when it comes to progressive rock, though, I usually kind of tried to follow my father's lead, because I didn't really know which way else to go. So I just would look at what he had, and that was like Stanley Clarke. Stanley Clarke first record.
R.I.P. Chick Corea. Good God.
Yeah, man, that was
Stanley Clarke, Return to Forever, all that stuff. Oh,
a Vulcan Princess was that whole. I remember the name Vulcan Princess not because it was Star Trek. I like Star Trek fine, but because it's a cool name, Vulcan Princess.
It is.
You know, but
sounds like something you'd name your van.
Oh, dude, I need a van now. I mean, well, there it is. Thanks. Naming the van. Hey, man, what you going to name the van? Already got that one taken care of, dude.
I bought a van for the name.
I bought a van for the name, yeah. But like that's one of those things that I would just put on, and I didn't even really look at the songs. It just played, you know. And same thing with like Weather Report. After I found out who Jaco Pastorius was, I wanted to listen to things that he did, and then I also wanted to listen to. What was some other things that my father listened to, like Asia and stuff?
Weather Report.
Yeah, Weather Report. That was the what's the name? What was the name of the album
Of Weather Report?
Yeah, I can't think of it.
I can't either. I can only
Forecast. Or
I can only think of Mr. Gone and a couple others. But Peter, as a drummer, originally a drummer, played guitar poorly. But Peter Erskine, I didn't get him early. No, I take that back. The early fusion stuff is pretty obvious, but when he got really subtle, Peter Erskine is just, anyway, I'm taking us off on a tangent. We are sitting at a computer, so I'm going to Google Weather Report. That the name of I can see the cover too.
I can too. It's like painted.
Beige.
It's like the one I see is like a bunch of different colors, almost like it's like I have no idea what I see.
This is good pod.
Well, you were talking about like shredders and stuff like that, and that's something my father and I used to kind of not see eye to eye on, was that he used to just sing the praises of like Dream Theater and a bunch of like progressive metal bands and stuff like that. And, you know, and he came from a musician's background. He majored in music, went to Shepherd College and Valley Forge and stuff. And he was quite good at playing saxophone. And I think what he looks at is the technique and the musicianship, which is incredible. You know?
Sure.
Anybody who can run around on a fretboard like a dog that's broke its chain is like kind of a badass. But it was the same thing that I was explaining to him. And I was like, yeah, all that's fine and true. It's like, how many of those songs meant anything to you? It was like, think about the song The Thrill Is Gone by B.B. King. And I can hear that song in my head, and it does something. No, you know, and I don't feel that way when I listen to Dream Theater, when I listen to Satriani, The Silver Surfer, any of that. I don't care. You know, right. It's the other thing. That's the good thing. You know, I mean, like, that's the thing about poetry, is that you can write academic poetry, but if you're not making really anybody feel anything, you're kind of missing something, unless you're just doing it strictly for what you're doing, then you're succeeding admirably. But I don't feel anything. See, that's what I liked about Charles Bukowski, is because he didn't have time for that, man. He just told you. And sometimes just being honest with somebody, even if you're full of shit, but being some kind of honest, having some kind of honesty with somebody, that means so much more than telling me a bunch of quadratic equations or what this means. I don't care.
No, you're right. And there's a vulnerability to that.
Yeah, man.
You know, the quadratic equations and the scales. It's amazing to watch. And there's an intersection in there somewhere. Some people do feel emotional connection to that, but some don't. And like, you know, Bob Dylan sang that way on purpose. He wanted the message and the words to be the emphasis of what they were receiving.
I actually liked his voice. I always liked Bob Dylan's voice. It never bothered me. My father hated his voice. He was, oh man, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't hear some of his songs sung any other way. I mean, yeah, of course. So All Along the Watchtower, come on, man. Hendrix owned that, you know.
No, he did. He made it. Speaking of making it your own.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I was actually a little indifferent towards his voice. I didn't think it was something worth judgment because he was such a poet.
Sure.
I don't think I ever really thought about it.
The words spoke more than
yeah,
how his voice might have said.
That's just how it gets here. He just drives a shitty car is all.
Yeah, man. You know, and there's all right. A shitty car is all right. You know, I mean,
he gets to where he's going.
It's certainly not as sterile, and has got a little bit more character and might know how to take that turn a little bit better than this new thing, you know. But I mean, like just with you saying that, I mean, I know it's kind of laughable to say this, but I really enjoy old Ringo Starr songs, like I Am the Greatest. I think John Lennon actually wrote that, but like I Am the Greatest, and there was this other one that he did that it was just, well, it's not I don't think it's a phrase that you're supposed to say anymore, but it's Back Off Boogaloo. Because now that has been adopted by these hateful people. But it was. Oh, really? I think there's some Boogaloo kind of
repurposing
chant, or
yeah.
I don't know. I just don't want to know, man. But it was actually Mark Bolan from T-Rex who said that to Ringo, like, oh man, it's Boogaloo or whatever, and then he wrote the song Back Off Boogaloo, but he just sounded like such a clown, and I loved it, and I loved. Because I could feel when I listened to Beatles records, is I could feel the sensitivity of George Harrison songs, but then I could listen to John songs and see a bit of sarcastic kid in there.
Yeah,
and
there
then
was sardonic nature.
Yeah, and then Paul would be the good kid who smoked out cigarettes outside but got good grades.
Right.
And Ringo would be like, all right, I'm trying to not think. But I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as I'm trying to just have fun. And that's what Ringo's songs were, like Octopus's Garden or A Little Help from My Friend. Anything that Ringo did off of the Beatles records, you know, they were always, it was like a break a break in
Right,
whatever
right.
it is for like, let's have a 15-minute run around the room with a kazoo break,
Right.
kind of feeling.
Everybody get up and stretch.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I think it speaks to creative identity in that, Ringo's solo stuff was a lot like his drumming, and that spirit was brought to the Beatles, like the whole debate over whether he was a good drummer or not.
He did what he needed to do, man.
He absolutely did. But, his creative spirit brought to the Beatles the same thing that his music had, which is loping along, not taking it too seriously,
Absolutely.
there's a roundness to his, he wasn't an angular drummer. He's kind of the edges were rounded off.
Did you notice how they did that again in the early 2000s? They did that with the White Stripes and Meg White. I think it worked really well. I loved that album. That was a wicked record. I remember right when I got it, dude. I was so happy. I hadn't heard anything like that before because it was new and it was old. And it was by two people. That's what it was so cool.
Speaking of guitar players, did you ever see It Might Get Loud with him?
Yeah, with
and
him,
Jimmy?
the Edge and Jimmy
Yeah.
Page. Yeah, I remembered that. I think I fell asleep watching it, but it was, while I was watching it was cool.
In the very beginning, he makes a guitar out of a Coke bottle and a pickup.
Yeah, I remember that part, yeah.
Man, yeah, he's an interesting cat for sure.
I read this one thing about, he played this guitar. It was a DePinto. It was like a red and white Kmart guitar.
Yeah, like $40.
Yeah, and that was the thing that he learned how to play on, and he had talked about it or something, and some fan came to a White Stripes show and gifted him a DePinto guitar, exactly like what he had.
Oh.
And they wrote about it in whatever magazine. I think Jack White said something like, my dad always used to tell me when I'd done something good. Which was a very odd thing to say to a stranger. But it also had that very boyish kind of, school is here, ring the bell, back in school. I think that we are gonna be friends. You know what I mean? It had that weird, but it's kind of weird, kind of creepy. But oh well, it's cool. Michael Jackson had Neverland. That's creepy and weird too. But it's like, hey man, if you got $1 billion, if you want to build a castle in your backyard, man, you got the acreage and you're not in the zoning, do it, man. Build a huge pumpkin back there, man. Build a huge pumpkin everybody can jump up and down, and I want to come over. Man. I'll pay my entrance fee. I'll take off my shoes. I'm gonna jump around that pumpkin for 15 minutes and leave. Get a falafel sandwich. You know what I mean?
A wrap.
A wrap, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier the split personality thing from the story you wrote when you were younger, and I mentioned in a text I was going to tell you about this movie. I've been into this whole quantum entanglement and quantum projection thing, and every moment that has ever happened is happening and has happened and will happen all at the same time. I saw this movie called Coherence, and I was going to tell you about it. It's really wild, and some people don't like time travel movies or parallel universe movies because they say it's impossible or it's too much to.
Then they didn't like Back to the Future, so their opinion isn't.
It was kind of like that, but it got me into this space of, I don't know if you meditate, but when I meditate in the morning.
Does smoking weed count? Because
sure, whatever works,
man. Then
if you got
I'm Buddha, dude.
but I've been trying to put myself in this new place, not one place, but any potential place, open to all places. But in this movie, and that's all about quantum projection and willing yourself into a specific, a different future, anyway, we can get into that whole thing. But in this movie, these people are having a dinner party and this comet goes over, and it's really weird. They're like, wow, this only happens once every 150 years. So, the power goes out and they go outside and they look up the street and there's another house up the street. Only one house has their lights on. They walk up there and they see people inside that they think looks like them. Well, I don't want to ruin the whole movie, but essentially this quantum thing is going on in the neighborhood, and versions of themselves are repeating very short periods of time. Yeah, it's a total trip, total mind trip. But the split personality thing reminded me of it because you're living multiple realities all at once. And it sort of has felt during COVID like that's what's going on. It's like, is this really happening? I haven't seen people saw a friend of mine the other day that I hadn't seen in a year. And he was like, man, I haven't seen you in a year. And I had to stop and think, that is really a trip, because it feels like, even though it has been literally a year, that like I saw him yesterday, and like we're all living these parallel, weird, tripped out lives.
I've joked with friends that that for the past year, especially with he who will not be named as our former president, it's been kind of like Back to the Future 2, where we've been in this weird hell where all of a sudden Biff got the Gray's Sports Almanac and had won everything, and dated Jackie O and stuff like that. And it's like, it feels like you mentioned that comet, we're still on the tail of this comet that has just barreled through our world, man. And you don't have to have a bunch of dead dinosaurs and stuff to have eradicated something, and it has. And that something, I don't know if we can get it back as a people, because I think it is now, I think that this much time inside and this much time apart and this much time of daydreaming and stuff, I don't think it's been good. I think that I'm an example of this. I mean, I ended a relationship with somebody and I shouldn't have, and that's my thing, you know. But I think that it's happened to a lot of people. I think that the close proximity to people that you love very much, who you don't get to hear them say things you don't like all the time, you know, because you get to go to work or you get to go there, and you don't maybe get to be around them when they do something that you're just like, oh God. But unfortunately, we're all up each other's asses now, and you don't really have anything. And I think it's really ruining a lot of relationships, and it's making friendships suffer. And I think people are going a little bit crazy, because I certainly have. I've spent 3 months walking around the fan trying to figure out who the hell I am. You know, that's not healthy, but it's real, you know. And I don't think I'm alone in this.
No, I totally agree with you, but I do think, and this has nothing to do with politics whatsoever, I just think it's that we go through phases, we go through energy shifts and energy periods, and I think we've been through one. And I have to feel, hopefully this is an optimistic view, that we're on the verge of getting to a new place. You know, it feels like we get to a new place every, I don't know, I guess you could put it on a generation, maybe a decade. And I don't think it's anything that really ascribes to a certain timeline of numbers. But I mean, if you buy into this whole thing, I'm not saying I do, but I'm open to anything. You know, the age of Aquarius is starting. So we go through a period where the Earth literally shifts slowly on its axis, and we see a new collection of constellations. Yes. Whatever that does for energy, our energy, cosmic energy, emotional energy, I don't know.
Like if you could
at least
have,
that's what I'm hoping.
You know, I mean, like you hear people talk about Mercury in retrograde and stuff like that. Like if you actually have a shift of all that, like into where the world is coming into a new age, you know, that's got to have some kind of type of significance that's not just one that's visible. That has to be something on a cosmic level internally. I think everybody feels it. Maybe even on a metabolic level, you change somehow, like all of a sudden hair grows in a different place. But, you know, I mean, it's just, I am really a pessimist, and it sucks. And I don't like it about myself, but it's a reality, and I'm trying to not be that way. And I do have a deep feeling that there is a curve coming, and that it is something that is positive. I think that what has happened is that we have unfortunately learned a lot about ourselves, and what we've seen we don't really like, and what we have seen we've seen on television, and said those are our brothers and sisters acting like that to our brothers and sisters, you know. And it's a painful, real thing. And I think that any person with some sense should take this time and look at themselves and look at their shortcomings and look at things about themselves that they don't necessarily like, because you know what? Those things will be there unless you change them. And if you want to change things that are going in the world that suck, then you need to start with yourself. And people have been preaching it all for months. And really, if people keep saying it, maybe it'll take, maybe people will listen and pay attention. Because it's like, this is your life, dude. Like, you get one. I know everybody walks around thinking they got all these chances and stuff, and you do. Yeah, unless something hits you when you walk across the street because you were paying attention to your phone. Pay attention. This is your life. This is your dog. you know? And like, I think about things like my mother and how she irritates the living shit out of me. And there's going to be a day when my mother doesn't irritate the shit out of me. And man, that's going to be a sad day. I'm very, very lucky to have this person that brought me into this world still here and willing and able to put up with my shit and who I am. I suck, man, but I have a cool mom.
You just said you suck. That's the first pessimistic thing you've said in the last 5 minutes. You called yourself a pessimist?
I do.
But seeing it, shining a light on it, it's like identifying fear. If you see the fear, you rob it of its power. I think you're more of an optimist, dude.
Well, I can see what you mean there, but I think I've had so many years logged on as a pessimist that I don't think a little bit of optimism really changes that. I think I got to work for a long time in order to balance that out, and I've got a lot of time in theory, you know. And maybe this isn't the first time I've been here or you've been here, and maybe I'm gonna be here 9 other times, dude. But I certainly don't want to be. I want it to be. I want to be able to say, okay, it's quitting time. I'm done. I've learned what I was supposed to learn. God, I hope it. Or I hope I learned one thing, one real thing that my soul needed, and maybe this time I was deposited here, I learned that thing, and maybe it was a really, really important lesson. And I hope that that's what I've gotten. And I have every ability to fail at it, but I've got every ability to give it a good run and try, I guess. And as long as I don't piss anybody off or hurt anybody's feelings, I'm good. I think that's at the end of the day. If you can if you can put your head on your pillow and you can say, I didn't hurt anybody's feelings today, I think then that's all right. I think that's better than what a lot of other people think about when they put their head down. I think it's a cool way to follow the golden rule. You know, like, man, there's a lot of times you want to say something nasty, and you know what the cool thing is how easy that perfectly butterfinger nasty shit would come out of your mouth, and then you just don't.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a type of restraint that's an applauding thing. I think
putting in the work, and you're putting in the work.
Oh man, but you know, I mean, they're all hurdles, dude. You hit them until you don't. And I hit them all the time, man. I just don't want to hit them anymore. So I just got to keep focusing on those things. And if that takes me walking for months around the fan and looking like an idiot nut, I don't care. That's why I walk at night, because I don't have to look at anybody. Nobody has to look at me. I can look in those little free libraries and see if there's a book in there I want to read. And then I can smoke a bunch of cigarettes and walk home and think about who in the hell I am and what I can do to not fuck up anybody's life.
Ryan Kent, I think that's a great place to leave it, man.
All right.
Thank you for being an optimist.
Thanks for having me here, man. This chair is comfortable. I like it. I could sit here all day.
That chair's got a history.
It does. It looks like a Yankees uniform. This is like, is this heaven? No, it's Iowa.
Is that right? Is there anything better than a great reading chair
No.
in a great spot?
I'm sure there are, but I can't think of anything better right now.
Simple pleasures, man.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Anytime.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for coming by. That's it. I spoke way too much in the beginning just because I really enjoyed the conversation. I couldn't wait to get to it. So I'm going to keep this one short. Thanks so much. Please follow Ryan on social media. Pick up his books. Just like as musicians, you know, it's super important to support your local artists and their output. It's what they have. It's what they need. So follow him, support him, and thank you for your time, attention, and intention here on the podcast. You can find the Good Eye Podcast at goodeyepodcast.com. Patreon page going up soon. Thank you once again, and we'll talk to you next time.